And I guess more people need to learn about, well, 100% disabled SFGs, which do have a lot of the tax benefits and government breaks that an ordinary commercial undertaking won't have. Institutions, people who have lived in an institution all their lives, jails, asylums, and the like. There again, the problem is much more deep-rooted, and I don't think that as far as this topic goes, you can go beyond OT, and sheltered workshops. I had a point. You see, the thing is that a lot of times you're good in what you do, Ratna. You're good as far as you're interested in the kind of products that are being made, and you have taste and aesthetics. So it all comes into place as far as you're concerned. And yes, thanks to Sachin Banyan, we also have managed to put together stuff which is not a charity product at the end of it. It's not something that people are going to buy because XYZ people made it and because it was painted by somebody with a blah 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 problem. That may be a part of the reason, but in the end you have a product which competes.
Yeah, you do look at the price eventually when you're...
You do look at the price. But ultimately, that's not our job. We are not in marketing. We are not in industry. We are not in commerce. We are basically in health plus welfare plus advocacy plus a whole lot of other things, and this is one of those plus things for us. So yes, while a lot of the models that we saw the last 2 days are heartening, they're there, they're real, they got results. I think that such models in the end should be mostly for people who are in situations like being in an institution, being stuck, let's say, in a prison, or in a place like, let's say, if I have autism and I may not want to go and work in a regular place, I might have some special requirements, in which case, yes, a sheltered workshop for people with autism would make sense. The rest of the people, I would prefer actually if they just join the mainstream, because at the end of it, that's what everybody wants. Nobody really wants to be separate and special, or everybody just wants to be like anybody else. Yeah, work for us. I think we need to, since there seems to be a lot of confusion about 80%, 40%, 60%, etc., it would help if we collate all the schemes as far as jobs go, the geos coming out in Tamil Nadu, we should scan it and put it up online. Not just on the national level, but also on the state level, because it's easier when you take a Karnataka's policy and you go and show it and you translate it and show it to somebody in Tamil Nadu and say, look, Karnataka is doing this, why can't we do this too? So yeah, because there's such little evidence and nobody really knows at the end of it what's going on. We know we come 2 days and we know what each other has spoken, but there's so much more over there. So if we take all that collective knowledge and put it together and bung it all in one thing, I think for starters the government would like to know, because the government does not know itself. Yeah, similarly, I've already started doing this, so I can continue doing this and hand it over to whoever would like to, well, put it on a website and use it for advocacy. I've started collating all the judgments as far as unsound mind and employment go. I could provide that, but like I said, it's not of much use except for retaining jobs in public sector enterprises and the government, not so much private sector, but it's a beginning. Yeah, and just like I think Dr. Ram Subramaniam had mentioned, the rehab medicine, even that hand-holding till you get a job, till you rejoin your job. That is also part of National Mental Health Program. It's not just health, PHCs, PMHP. It's a heck of a lot more because people want a lot more. That's it.
My response is that there are immense lot of possibilities, Vaishnavi, with people living in institutions like prison, like beggars' home. I think one of the recommendations that can go to the government is to set up a prison shop, is to set up a mental hospital shop where people come and buy things.
Yeah. Or maybe even better to offer, I think IMH was doing that at some point in time. They had a laundry, I don't know if it's still working, and they had a bakery. But if you could, like how Mr. Mahadevan has done it pretty successfully, he's opened up a bakery unit in Pural jail. And I mean, people are like so happy, they don't even mind going and working there free. They just want to work at the end of it. The money is not important and they're so happy. That way at least you have a person who really knows what they're doing, coming and doing something which is both needed and viable and not running at a loss. Because otherwise, if we go and try doing, starting a bakery unit today, we'll be thinking bakery, tomorrow we'll be thinking where do we get money from, day after is fighting with the government. We generally, it's not our job. So if we open that up to private sector and make it mandatory, if an IMH can have it, if a Pural jail can have it, every institution can have it.
I think that recommendation has to go, and yes, I agree with you that this has to be in partnership.
Yeah.
It cannot be by the NGO
Itself. Yeah.
It is not possible, and I think it came out pretty clearly that you need to tie up with various stakeholders.
Yeah.
So that is one. And secondly, I think it is also important if we can somehow convince the government to kind of use up all the things that the NGOs produce. I think that would be a huge opportunity.
Market-wide, right?
Yeah, I mean,
But for that we'd have to make what they want.
that we will make. What's the problem?
It might be agarbattis, that's why.
What is wrong with the agarbatti? What is wrong with the agarbatti? What is wrong with the candle? What is wrong?
Yeah.
It's all...
Good.
No, a candle, there's nothing wrong with I just heard that. There's nothing wrong with the candle, but there's something wrong if everybody believes that it's only a candle and that everybody has to make a candle and that's the only thing that certain people can make. Then there's a problem. So if it just becomes, then it becomes very stereotypical, it becomes monotonous. The person who's offering it is offering it in a monotonous, boring way. The person who's receiving it is like, oh God, I'm stuck, I can't do anything else except make candles. Then it becomes a pain. But otherwise, if it's done in the right spirit, so it's more about spirit, approach, attitude. It's less about candle, phenyl, blah.
After all, Dimple Kapadia's candles are selling at a premium.
I love candles. At National Automobile, you get lovely candles. The thing is that the approach, and if people don't like candles and if you toss candles down, then it doesn't work.
So that is true for every
Okay,
product.
everything else.
So it's...
So let
So I am not as hopeless as
Candles.
as difficult as people are.
Good.
I see a lot of possibilities.
And Anjali has proved Anjali's work is,
No,
you've
it's
seen
not
their
about
work also.
Anjali. No, it's...
In this case, it's about Anjali. Don't be too modest. See, in this case, it's about Anjali because if you look at their products, it's amazing.
No, but
Their stuff
Vaishnavi
is
made
really
a point
amazing.
here. Vaishnavi
Candles
is...
are very-
It is in response to that.
Oh,
She very
You
validly
should
said.
do their work.
what nonsense is that?
No, and not
No, what did
go
she
off
say?
into
What non-
stuff which is not their work.
What is not there? What? Nothing like that. There's nothing that somebody's work and not
Yeah,
somebody's
but
work.
then do you see a Tata coming and doing what the Banyan is doing?
So what do you think an NGO shouldn't do?
An NGO should get other people to do all this
Marketing and...
What is RFID doing, Rangoonwala? They're doing Banyan's work and their work. Similarly, even Tata is planning to set up centers now. SRTT is planning.
way,
So
Baba.
you
Who is
slowly-
Tata?
SRTT, the three of them behind Tata.
Still SRTP, okay? They're not Tata. But essentially, I mean, focus on what your strength is, that's all.
Okay.
Done. My thing is done.
Others?
No,
Madam Moderator.
Madam Moderator, okay. Anyone, please, can we have some male voices? Because I think.
Where are my suggestions? Sonna suggestions tavara?
As a translator, by default. Okay, can we have some suggestions from you? Do you have, as an occupational therapist of Banyan?
Yeah, actually, there is no enough As far as I know, there is no enough occupational therapists in Tamil Nadu to support the mentally ill people, and there is no proper setup like vocational training center has been provided, apart from the benefits and all. If it is provided, it will be more helpful for the mentally ill people.
So you want more vocational training
Trainers or-
centers and more occupational
Therapists, vocational
therapists.
trainers.
I think courses on occupational therapy is actually, we also don't get so many occupational therapists, no? So that is, I mean, there should be more courses.
Actually, I would say we are missing out on the community, integrated community project kind of a thing. Whether it's a psychiatrist or whether it is a occupational therapist, you have few of them.
Or whether it's a community worker.
Yeah, so you need to train community workers with all those techniques. How do you break down a complex task into simpler tasks which they can do? And two, how do you reinforce them to do that? And then how do you choose who does what kind of work? How do you find out what is the real potential? This kind of thing, of course, an occupational therapist or professional can do, but then it should also be like what has happened with Anu and Shashi. Shashi taught her, now Anu has become a trainer herself without actually going to any college or anything. So that kind of a thing you need.
When there is a demand for occupational therapy, at the time we can do the same kind of work. When the OT is not recruited in that place, what is the point of training somebody else instead of being replaced by the OT?
No. You are speaking from a
OT
discipline point of view.
No. When the OT professional, when there is a demand of OT professional, we can train somebody to replace the
No,
OT.
that is what I
When
told.
the OT is not
No,
recruited
no,
in that
wait,
place,
wait.
what's the point of training
Wait.
somebody else?
Excuse me. So the thing is, I am talking from a community point of view. That is, in a remote village or a small district, they cannot sustain an occupational therapist.
Sure.
An occupational therapist's work, it's like a neurologist or so it requires a lot of special inputs and all that. If the government or the community can afford to employ an occupational therapist, fine. For example, the Banyan has at point of time has had 2 or 3 occupational therapists, okay, because it can afford. But there are a lot of institutions, including IMH and all, do not have an occupational therapist to my knowledge, or even a psychologist for that matter. So we have to make do with what we have, right? So there, a community model approach looks at deprofessionalizing and decentralizing. Otherwise, everything remains at IMH. Everybody has to go to AIMS or to CMC or to at least Banyan and IMH. We are looking at everybody can be empowered. Okay, so there, like you were like Vashi was talking about integrating all the services at one place. So integrating at all services, not only at the apex level, but also at the community level. At the community level, you will have to have a transdisciplinary approach, like what Vandana was saying, that it's not who should do and who should not do. At some basic level, the community has to look at all these things. And like what you were talking about, who should train and how that training should be, I think we should also look at preventive promotive aspects, because a lot of job stress is making people get into the MI circuit. In the first place, a lot of people we know in the BPO sector, in the medical transcription, because they're not able to keep up to the 99% perfection and all that, they're getting into burnout, they're getting into breakdowns, breakups and everything like that. So we need to have at that level you need a person who will guide and coordinate that. That could be a professional like an occupational therapist or something. But if we have less number of occupational therapists, they should look at training more community rehab professionals. Community rehab workers, not professionals. Because a country like us cannot afford to have too many professionals. And professionals always get into a lot of professional competing and undercutting, and the psychologists are taking my cases away, the neurologists are seeing psychiatrists' cases now. At the end of the day, we have to remember Pareto's principle. That is, 80% of cases can be handled by lay persons. And that is why quacks make a field day. Because out of 100 cases, 80 cases, you just have to pray, wait for 7 days or a week, they're going to get alright. Okay, so they managed to make a killing on that. All you need is some small basic stuff. But that basic common sense has to be there, that has to be systematized. So that is what I'm saying. At the end of the day, when you're training people, you need to have that basic concept. How do you reinforce people? How do you make an activity schedule? So if our health workers know that common sense, we can do a lot. And I have found that health workers who understand that well are able to do better work than a so-called professional person, whether it's a vocational trainer or an occupational therapist. Unless they have that common sense approach and that thing that what will work in this patient and in this community. So you have to have that connect between what is that community, what is this person's ability, what does the community need, and how do I translate it using simple scientific techniques. So basic common sense behavioral reinforcement and instrumental conditioning and stuff like that.
Can I take? I think I want to bring these discussions back into the domain in which we're supposed to, in terms of also looking at whatever has been covered. As you said, we've encapsulated in the presentations and all of that. Taking a point from where Dr. Anbu was continuing, I would like to add one thing, that we are not looking at creation of newer workforces, in a sense. When we are talking about employment, it's not just newer, but it's also, from the way I'm seeing it, it's sustainability. For people who are working or who are going into the workforce, there needs to be sustainability. And one of the things that sustains people, everybody, let's not just look at people with mental illnesses or disabilities, is, as we've said, workforce mentoring or workforce, a lot of workforce mentoring or workforce coaching, motivational, reasons to be both reward, all kinds of reward systems, but there's nothing like money. So I think we're looking at something very incremental and small in terms of the suggestion I'm making. People who sustain work for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, little small rewards that can be given, in terms of incentivization, and cash rewards, or what kind of, or token rewards. I think that helps a long way. And if they come back within 3 months of not